I want to welcome Dr. Irwin J. Mansdorf, a clinical psychologist and senior fellow at the Jerusalem Center of Public Affairs. Irwin, how do we even begin to analyze the trauma that these women have experienced and then through that help them heal?
Well, I think you could begin by just imagining yourself in this position. I think all of us, as we watch these images, are feeling the horror that these women went through, and we didn't go through the horror. So imagine what they actually feel and what they actually are going to go through as they try to recover through this period.
It is difficult to even imagine that. And so then, in your opinion, what is going to be the most difficult part of their reintegration to society? Because from some of the previously released hostages, we hear that that is one of the most difficult aspects.
And we hear what they're telling us. We have the first set of hostages that came out without us actually having a literature or background knowing how to deal with this type of this situation. It was something completely new. But now we hear them telling us that the most important thing is to give them space, to give them time, to give the families privacy. And this was repeated again this week, and is repeated again today by the IDF spokesman in his statement. And I think it's important. So I think the point that you made of the contrast between what we saw with the crowd, the mob crowd in Gaza, and what we saw at the hospital brings that out. But I think it would have been much better had we been able to greet them at the hospital in a way that gave them a little bit more privacy without all these paparazzi jumping on them.
That is a difficult part for many of the Israelis, and that brings me to my next question then. How can these families, how can these friends, how can the Israeli public help? Because it's a traumatic event for those who know the hostages as well. And so how can they help their friends, their family members begin to heal?
Well, first of all, they're all going to be under psychological care, and I think they have to take the cue from the people that are being treated and take the cue from the families. The families will tell you when it's okay to come over, when it's okay to speak to them, when it's okay to, and everyone will have a different reaction. There's no uniform reaction and method of dealing with each of these people that have gone through the trauma. Everyone brings in their own set of history, their own set of dealing with things. And the cue that we need to take from the family members that will tell us how to approach them. Now, remember that the family members themselves are going through a reintroduction to society. They've spent the last 15 months in this horrible hell of themselves, the psychological hell, where I'm sure they weren't sleeping, they weren't eating, they weren't thinking straight, they weren't able to socialize in any normal fashion. So dealing with them was also going to be something that will require a readjustment, not an adjustment, but a readjustment to the reality of what they face now.
Clinical psychologist Dr. Irwin Mansdorf, thank you for giving us some analysis on exactly what we should expect and how we can better help these hostages that are set to be released as well. Thank you.
My pleasure.